The 2010 Citizens United decision by the U.S. Supreme Court has ushered in an unprecedented amount of spending in political campaigns. Money has always been a part of politics, but if you believe the adage that whoever holds the purse strings calls the shots, then big corporate and special interest money in politics can also mean undue influence in politics. And that seemed to be something that the candidates in this year's U.S. presidential election agreed on before they both endorsed the super PACs campaigning for them.
I don't think American elections should be bankrolled by America's most powerful interests, or worse, by foreign entities. They should be decided by the American people. And I'd urge Democrats and Republicans to pass a bill that helps correct some of these problems.
So they set up these new entities, which I think is a disaster, by the way. Campaign finance law has made a mockery of our political campaign season. We really ought to let campaigns raise the money they need and just get rid of these super PACs.
So should there be a separation of money in politics for the sake of protecting American democracy? Joining me now to offer their takes on all of this, John Samples, director of the Center for Representative Government at the Cato Institute, and Craig Holman, the legislative representative for Public Citizen. Welcome to the Heat.
Thank you.
Why don't we start there? You just heard both of the candidates saying, oh, this is not such a good thing, and yet, of course, President Obama has priorities USA, and Governor Romney has restore our future. Why the change of heart? Why don't I start with you, John?
Well, I think for both of them, they decided to use the possibilities created by Citizens United. President Obama in particular felt like he was dropping behind. I should point out that Mitt Romney's statement, however, was not negative about the Citizens United decision or the super PACs. He was pointing out that campaign finance law makes it difficult to run your own campaign, to raise your money, and he wanted to get rid of that and really probably have something like unlimited contributions and disclosure for his campaign.
Craig, your take.
One of the few things, this is one of the few things John and I will agree upon. Obama is dead set in opposition to the Citizens United decision, while Mitt Romney is not. He's very supportive of the Citizens United decision. What it has done is brought this huge influx of new and largely undisclosed money into the electoral system. Mostly, we suspect, but we can't confirm, from corporations that have been subject to various regulatory efforts by the Obama administration. So we're talking about the banks, Wall Street, the healthcare industry, and insurance companies. And these companies are investing heavily and disproportionately in favor of Republican candidates and Mitt Romney. So that's where we find the difference between the two candidates going on here.
So is this concept of one citizen, one vote, is that dead in the United States? I mean, are they going to be drowned out because of this?
I should point out for the last more than 30 years, the idea of equality, one person, one vote, which has a good role in voting and in the allocation of votes, has not had a part to play in free speech in the First Amendment. That's been Supreme Court doctrine for almost 40 years now. Another thing I would point out is let's not be so trustworthy of politicians here and assume that business is the evil actor here. If Citizens United had not happened, everyone estimates that President Obama would have maybe a $200 to $300 million advantage in this presidential election.
So this levels the playing field in your estimation?
Oddly enough, it brings a kind of equality.
Craig?
Well, this certainly doesn't level the playing field when you talk about average American citizens versus corporate interests. Literally in the 2008 campaign, for instance, Obama did raise a huge amount of money, but largely from small donations from average Americans. I mean, we chipped in our $20 or $30 and were able to make the difference. This year, that isn't going to matter.
But let me play devil's advocate. Your group's Public Citizen. Why not have all the public citizens get together? If a million of them contributed $100 to a super PAC, suddenly you're a juggernaut, and they can play a role in this. Why can't that happen?
Well, if we had 1 million members, which we don't, and if they had $100 they could spare, which they don't, that would almost rival what Sheldon Adelson is talking about spending single-handedly. This is no way to try to combat billionaires and millionaires when it comes to financing elections.
So, John, basically, to surmise what he just said, if the public citizen, if it's a boxing match, they're up against the ropes. It's the big businesses, the big money corporate interests that really have the say in this election.
Well, I do disagree. I mean, remember all the time in the past, corporations did have an unlimited right to say things about elections. Those corporations were called media corporations. And so in 1978, the Supreme Court Court decided that all corporations have rights, actually, to free speech. And Citizens United was the working out of that traditional 30-year recognized right. Media corporations, which really, as we know now from academic research, tended in one political direction, which was toward the left, had power to affect elections, to influence elections. Now we're seeing a broader selection of other people and a broader selection from across the political spectrum having the right to spend on speech about an election, vote for and vote against candidates.
Craig, we've broadened this.
If I could offer a little broader perspective on this, when America first started banning corporate money in elections, it was in the wake of the corruption scandals of the late 19th century, when the robber barons were literally buying government. You had the senator from, an oil company, and the congressman from a military company, as opposed to, representing states or constituents. So in 1907 was the first effort to try to ban corporate involvement in elections under the Tillman Act. And, it was very obvious that corporations, first of all, are not people. They amass huge amounts of sums of money, and that just can drown the voice of Americans, and it brings and breeds corruption and scandal.